Welcome to Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football. My name is Wes, and I'd like to invite you to join me, Jesse, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news from around the league, make predictions for the upcoming games, and much, much more. Like, how do the bookies know, right? Like I think I know. I think I've got a handle on how teams are in relation to how good they are and how good they are in comparison to each other. But then the unthinkable happens and Vegas shows why they make the big bucks. So I know nothing. So Jesse, how are you feeling?
I've been better. But that's okay. We got a W this week, so that's something.
True. Matt, I'm sorry, my friend. How are you holding up, though?
I mean, you see where I'm at right now, right? I've been here for 2 hours. I'm waiting on my appointment with Dr. Finkelstein so we can discuss this flare-up that I've had in my battered vol syndrome because, the absolute mind-numbing stupidity that is Tennessee football has reared its head again. It's been a long time, but
yeah.
Back.
All right, well, I mean, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into them and talk about the games from last weekend.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
All right, the first one was LSU at Mississippi State. This one I thought might be a little bit closer than this, but LSU winning this one 41-14. I got the point here, and like, goodness, just what an absolute drubbing. Like I said, hope it was going to be closer, but not to be. Matt, what was your impressions of this one?
I mean, when you give up 500 plus yards to an offense that, I mean, we talked earlier about how LSU had their troubles, and then they come out and they hang 500 yards on this defense. That's kind of embarrassing. Not to mention that 420 plus ish of those 500 plus yards were just Jaden Daniels. Not it just by him. Well, not necessarily by himself, but
right.
Again,
he threw the ball to himself. He
right.
caught it.
He had 361 yards in the air, and then another 64 yards, and he was the leading rusher for LSU in this ball game. Not to take away anything from anybody else, but Malik Neighbors also had himself a game, 239 yards in the air. So, Mississippi State, where's your defense, buddy? Because it didn't show up for this game. And not to mention, I think if I remember the stat correctly, and I'm spitballing here, but I think Mississippi State's offensive line gave up 4 sacks in this game and like 7 tackle for losses. So it was a rough game. It's a real rough game for Mississippi State, but
yeah, Will Rogers with just over 100 yards in the air. Jesse, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think LSU was in control of the ball on both sides of it, right? It's like you said, there was no defense from Mississippi State and not much of an offensive line either. Daniels, again, like you guys mentioned, had a lights out game. It was insane. Probably the best game of his career, throwing for 361 yards and 2 touchdowns while completing 88.2% of his passes, which is an LSU single game record. Malik Neighbors, like you mentioned, top target there. He finished the game with 13 catches for 239 yards and 2 touchdowns. And they were just able to stretch the field. Mississippi State did not stand a chance. It was sad to see for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, definitely not what we expected or what we were kind of hoping for. At least want to see like a close game, right? And that wasn't. Next, Kansas State at Missouri. Mizzou winning this one 30-27. Nobody got the point here because, why would we, assume that was going to happen? It was a back and forth game, though. Very exciting, and was tied with only a few seconds remaining. And like, what a kick, right, by Mevis. Like a huge win. This is a huge win for Drinky. And I think our respect went up for him a little bit afterwards. And Matt, you sent us a sound clip that I'm actually going to include here. Brady Cook got booed by the home fans early on in this game. And Coach Drinky addressed it after the game.
I'm going to say it. It pissed me off when we booed our starting quarterback to start the game. That pissed me off. And he went out there and played his butt off for this university and this team. They need to get behind him. We need to get behind the young man. You want to boo me, fine. You don't boo the starting quarterback. It's bull crap. I'll say it again. Should never happen.
Yeah, that's kind of a mini version of this.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
That's
really
the energy
was.
it gives off. That's definitely that energy.
A little bit. Yeah. Jesse, what do you think about this game and the post-game comments?
I like the post-game comments. I mean, you can't help but like it. It's absolutely ridiculous to boo your own team unless they're doing something egregious, right? Unless they're
Right.
being stupid and being rude and awful. Like, yeah, don't boo your team, especially when they first come out. It's not a good look. But in 2 quarters, Mizzou's offense matched and improved on their total points from last season's matchup against the Wildcats. So already an improvement. They had a little bit of a hot offensive start. You know, they came out really well in the first half, and then the second half, not so much. You know, they punted the ball away 3 straight drives, and then they didn't punt at all in the first half. So I don't know what happened at halftime, if we got a little too big for our britches or if we were just a little tired. But you know, and then Kansas State made them pay for that, not being able to capitalize on the drives that they were making. Kansas State scoring 10 points in the third quarter to take the 24-17 lead heading into the fourth quarter. And then obviously it took Missouri more than 15 minutes of the game time to get their first points in the second half, and a nail biter of an ending. So for me, they were able to hang with an okay opponent. I mean, they were a ranked team, so
Yeah. Well, by these the booing of the fans, Matt was so offended he left. So yeah, I don't know. I guess technical difficulties, and Matt will return eventually. But yeah, and what was kind of cracking me up is these same fans who were booing him early on in the game are the same fans who, and I know you have thoughts on this, Jesse, stormed the field afterwards and you know, are just celebrating and everything. And I'm like, it doesn't get to go both ways, right? You got to support first and then you can celebrate, right?
No, you don't get to wear both hats. Like, you don't get to just be fair weather when it's going your way. You're just like, yeah, let's storm the field. Also, don't storm the field.
Yeah.
It's
completely unsafe.
Yeah, it's unsafe, but it's also the 3rd game of the season. Chill out. It's not a rival, to my knowledge. Like, it's not a huge deal. And I just don't get it. I don't get the storming the field this early, but also, if you were someone that booed, you should have just gone home. Don't storm the field.
Welcome back, Matt. We said that you were so you know, taken aback by the booing by the fans that you left. So, but seriously, what were your thoughts?
First off, I want to go on record as saying that I saw the very tail end of this game, and I didn't have a chance to see the opening salvo of how this game went. So I don't know what transpired with the booing. But I could tell you this: I was honestly really blown away by the fact he hit that field goal.
SEC record.
It was like 61 yards.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it looked like he could have done it from 64 or 65. It was a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we said, it's a pretty big deal to get a win over a ranked Big 12 team. I mean, especially for Missouri being where they're at. On the comments about the booing, anybody who has watched more than 2 episodes of the show knows how I feel about Drinkwitz. Anybody that has paid attention to any of my social media knows how I feel about Drinkwitz and the University of Missouri for that matter. But I got to tell you, aside from the little ridiculousness that it sounds a lot like Gundy a couple years ago, well dang near 10 years ago, at Oklahoma State, kudos to him for stepping up and saying, listen, guys, he's the quarterback. You got to back him up. I wish some people on both Twitter would also take that particular line of thought into their hearts, if you will. You know, if you look at the final numbers for Cook, I mean, he threw for 356 yards and 2 TDs. That's not a bad day. So I don't know what the booing. I don't know what the booing was about, but again, there's a lot going on there. But kudos to Drinkwitz for backing up his quarterback. I can appreciate that. He circled the wagons. It was Toughness Tuesday. Again, all the silly stuff aside, good on him for backing up his QB.
MIZ. Yes. And also the fact that these are kids, right? Like, I don't understand it. Like the booing thing, I don't get it. It would be one thing if these were like grown adults and this was their job, and granted, some of them do get paid to be out there, but not specifically for football. It's for name, image, and likeness. And I haven't understood that, and I never will. And these are kids out there, and just, I think like, when my kid gets that age, if they decide to play a sport or whatever, like I can't imagine being in the stands at a massive stadium and people are booing them, and like how that must feel. Like, these are people, right? These are not just faceless individuals.
There's been a lot of discussion over the last couple of days. I don't know if you guys saw the comments that came out after the Colorado game, that really heavy lick that got put on.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name now, but like
Hunter.
the guy, yeah, thank you. The guy that put the hit on him from CSU, his family's gotten death threats.
That's
And you're like, seriously? And not to mention, there was a running back in the NFL. I forget which one it was. It might have been Madison, who's a running back for the Vikings, I think. He got a racist DM. Like, he got multiple racist DMs this weekend because people are upset that he didn't get a bunch of points in fantasy. It's like, at what point do you kind of have to look at yourself as a human and go, wow, like I've taken this too far? You just got to pump it's a game. Like, we get real wound up, and when we get to Tennessee game, talk about the Tennessee game, I'm going to get real wound up. But at some point you have to kind of stop and go, I'm taking this a bit too seriously, because it's the same thing as people tweeting it at recruits and tweeting at football players. Like, there's been a lot of Tennessee fans that have been tweeting at, or Xing, or whatever you want to call it now, that have been tweeting at members of the football team this past week, and you're just like, dude, don't do that. Like, recruits see this crap, and they see when it happens, and you're just like, let's chill out a little bit.
It's a great way to drive recruits away.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with that.
Have some grace and just let people, if they screw up, fine, but you don't have to.
Nobody tweets at you when you do your job wrong. In fact, most of those people, if they like miss something in an email, someone's like, hey, per the attached, they'll cry about it. But it's those same people that are gonna tweet or try to say something nasty to a 19-year-old child.
Ridiculous.
I would love that. That'd be great. A tweet or an X, whatever. Wes, you call that a SharePoint upgrade? That is ridiculous.
Right? Like, you call that a spreadsheet? Come on, Greg. I mean, just also, again, I will remind everyone, I'm one of these people, so I can say this. We literally spend our weekends wearing the work uniform of strangers that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We spend our off days wearing someone else's work uniform, right? We do it in the pros. We do it for college. Maybe we should chill a little bit.
If you just kind of step back and look at it, it is funny. I mean, granted, it's probably not going to change, but when you kind of put it in that perspective, you're like, oh yeah, it is kind of weird, isn't it?
This weird parasocial interaction where we're like, oh, I see you on TV. I know all this stuff about you. So like, I know you. You don't know.
Nah, it's not that
right.
And if you did know these people, I guarantee you wouldn't treat the people in your life that you do have a relationship with the way that you tweet and DM these children.
Exactly.
Not to mention, most people are keyboard warriors. They get behind the anonymity of a 100%. Laptop or a phone screen, and they just go to town. And a lot of these people, if you saw them in public and bucked up on them, they'd back down in a heartbeat. Yeah. And especially to a big old football player. I challenge anybody to go up to like some big 6'4" linebacker out of Alabama and talk some crap to him after that game last weekend. You won't do it. And if you do, you're going to get your butt kicked.
You do. You're several drinks overserved.
Right.
Just like the guy at the Tennessee game.
We're going to talk about him. It's amazing how bold people can get under certain circumstances. All right, next is South Carolina at Georgia. Georgia winning this one 24-14. Jesse got the point here. Again, this is like another sluggish start, and I'm sitting here watching the first half and going, gosh, what is going on here? 11-point deficit at half. Field goal issues with Peyton Woodring. Poor defense, like the guys missing assignments on defense. Then in the second half, I don't know what Kirby said, but we got things rolling offensively and were able to get to Spencer Rattler more defensively. Offensive line created holes, and Dejan Edwards ended up with over 100 yards on the ground because of that. I'm glad the Dogs won, but honestly, if I'm Shane Beamer, I'm happy with this. When you consider where they were just a few years ago, and he went on that rant post game about how many 5-stars Georgia's gotten, how they had no hope of keeping up with them whatsoever. They've clearly closed the gap somewhat between themselves and Georgia. Matt, what were your thoughts on this one?
Listen, I know that I'm not going to be very popular with the red and black faithful for saying this. Is really, really, really hoping for the upset here, only because y'all need some humbling.
Y'all,
the fact that, well, not US. Again, you're the exception, not the rule.
General
General y'all. That's a very general catch-all y'all. But does that make me UGA hater? You bet your bippy it does. But beside the point, UGA didn't do a whole lot in the first half to inspire confidence. I really felt like they came out really bad. Carson Beck looked like he was missing open throws. He was, the offensive line wasn't doing a very good job of kind of holding their blocks. They were not opening up those lanes. I was really kind of shocked because I was like, what is this? And I think I might have reveled in it a bit too much. I'll get it on the back end when we talk about the karma that comes to Tennessee, Florida. But like, this was definitely a tale of two halves. First half was all Carolina. But the problem is you don't play halves in football. You play complete games. And so Carolina just couldn't get it done in the second half. There were a lot of costly turnovers. There were a couple of really bad penalties that kind of shot them in the foot. Spencer Rattler's wide receivers didn't do anything to help him out. There were a couple of really key drops in certain situations. And Rattler, I thought, did a pretty good job of keeping them in this. Again, and I am not a Spencer Rattler fan at all, and I haven't been for years. But the kid's got some moxie, and you have to admit that he has gotten he's made a case for himself to be a pretty good quarterback, I think, at the next level. He shows a lot of poise in the pocket. He doesn't get rattled really easily from what you can tell. He just a couple bad throws and a couple of bad drops, and we may be talking about an upset in Athens this weekend, but we didn't get it. So just have to regroup and try again, I guess.
Matt, when you said you're not a Spencer Rattler fan, I just had in my head last year's episode where you're like, Spencer Rattler for Heisman.
Well, a lot changes in 6 months.
Well, that's
12
true.
months, 8 months, however long.
Yeah, no, he was good in this one. Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, you talk about a quarterback that has been booed before by a home fan base. Yeah, I think of Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, but you're absolutely right. I am by no means either a Spencer Rattler fan, but Carolina has some offensive line troubles. There's another team that does it as well, but we'll get there. They just they lost their starting tackles, right? Right before the season came. And going into this season, they had allowed 11.5 tackles for loss per game. That was the worst mark in the nation, right? And it didn't get any better playing Georgia. And they allowed 3 sacks. Again, not great, but I don't think those numbers truly tell you the moxie and the grit that Spencer Rattler had in this game, because he had to drop back to pass 42 times and took shots on at least half of those. And the times that he did stay in the pocket, it's like you mentioned, Matt, he really did show that poise of an NFL quarterback that was just going to be patient and try to make reads, try to figure out where to put the ball. And most of the time when he did that, his line didn't help him out, and neither did his receivers, and someone in a Georgia uniform flattened him, but he did everything he possibly could to help his team. Unfortunately, he's not the only one that has to do it to get them a win. But for me, I felt like the Bulldogs struggled in the red zone. I mean, at the end of the day, their offense reached the red zone 6 times in 9 possessions, not counting into the half possessions, and managed only 24 points in those 6 trips. They finished with 3 touchdowns, a field goal, and 2 missed field goals. This is not the Georgia team of efficiency that we've known the past 2 seasons. Their defense kept them in this game. I don't know if another, defense that maybe wasn't quite as good would have kept them in this game. And, luckily for UGA, Carolina could not stand up to that tough defense that outlasted them. But if they had a little bit more gas in the tank, Carolina might have gotten it done.
I'm not saying I'm pushing the panic button on the field goal kicker just yet, but he needs some kicks in this next game to sort of get that out of his head, because as we all know, once that kind of gets in the kicker's head, then it just spirals from there. So
they were 2 really bad misses.
Yeah, they
were
not good.
It wasn't like they doinked off the upright. They were 15, 20 feet away from the upright. They were bad. They were really bad.
Right.
Been there. I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Next is Alabama at South Florida. Bama winning this one 17-3. Matt got the point here. Like, obviously this one was a wild ride with delays, weather delays. Jesse, what was your thoughts about this?
The fact that we even have to talk about this game is not good, right? How is the O-line getting worse? It's actually regressing. Does anyone else see that? Because we went into this season, the off season going into this season, and everyone was talking about our O-line. They're huge, strongest position that we have. They're bigger than the NFL. They're saying they're dominant. They're nasty. They're physical.
I did say that.
At this point, they are none of those things. And they are currently reminding me of a turkey cheese sandwich that was dropped in a kiddie pool and is just falling apart.
Oh.
Just not great. They can't keep themselves together. They don't block. They don't allow any lanes to be open. They don't protect the quarterbacks. We might as well have rocks out there because maybe they'll hit someone will hit them. I mean, I think these gentlemen, instead of us talking about how big they are, maybe they need to lose just a little bit of weight so they can be more agile, because right now they are not keeping up with anybody and they are not protecting anybody. We got to block, right? Now, the O-line was not the only issue. They're a big issue, but not the only issue. Two gentlemen come to mind. Their last names are Buckner and Simpson. Those were some other issues. I understand that Simpson ended up making some plays. He started 0 for 4, but he ended up getting it done. I think it was clear in this game, and RG3 was talking about it in the commentary. He's a very silly commentator.
He is very funny.
But
he's entertaining though. I'll listen to RG3. I got no problem with him.
Oh, I just half the time I'm just going, what?
Yep.
But he made a good statement, and it did look like we were using this game to figure out who the quarterback was going to be. And I think we weeded out who it wasn't going to be. Jalen Milroe announced today by Coach Saban that he was going to be our starting quarterback. And the entire game, I was yelling for them to put him in because at least we score points when he's there. Sure, the other team does some too. But my God, Simpson and Buckner did not look like they knew what was happening. They could not make decisions at all. It's like they couldn't read anything on the field. And they just stood there. At least Milroe runs or tries to. They looked very unprepared to me. Thank God for Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams, because they were quiet, I think, a lot of the previous two games. And then Saturday, they took the bulk of that workload. And it was like the first half was absolutely McClellan. And in the second half, you saw Roydell Williams come out. They combined for 203 yards on the ground and were honestly probably one of the only reasons that we won that game. So, Alabama faithful. I am not a bandwagon fan by any stretch of the word. Born into this, alumni, worked for them. I'm here. I remember the days when we were not a powerhouse. I truly do. And I am not saying that we are falling from grace. That is not what I'm saying. But we have got to clean things up, and we've got to clean them up fast. Call in the Ghostbusters. Call in, I don't know, call in Mrs. Doubtfire, whoever we have to call in, we should call them, because need I remind us, USF has won 5 games since the beginning of the 2020-2021 season. And yet, I love him dearly. Coach is proud of this team. No, we got to clean it up. This is not who we are. And winning 17-3 is fine on the road when we're playing an SEC opponent. It is not fine when we are playing a non-Power 5 team that hasn't won but 5 games since 2020.
Hey, you need to put some respect on the Bulls now, okay?
It was such a weird one to watch, because like the whole time I'm like I understand the monsoon is affecting things, the rain and all this
You cannot blame the rain.
But yeah, I mean, it's especially when they came back and it was actually sunshining once they came back out on the field, and after that was over. So honestly, yeah, if I'm a Bama fan, I want Milroe back. And so I think
Definitely.
100% the right call moving forward to this week. Matt, what were your thoughts on this one? Okay.
The man's done. I didn't want to break something, so I just went ahead and put that down so we can go ahead. Guys.
You're doubling down on last week.
Did you see the clip of Nick coming in down the tunnel at the end of that game? He looked exhausted. Like, I felt like I was watching one of those grainy clips from World War II where they were showing guys leaving, like, the front line after the Battle of Bastogne. They just looked bonked, and he looked bonked. Y'all can say he ain't done all day. You can say it. That man's body language is telling me something completely different. He's done ski. But I digress. I will go back to actually talking about football. I'm sorry, Jesse. I know it hurts you. I know you can feel your blood curdling from the concept. But listen, this game. Do you know what this game reminded me of, Jesse? You'll probably hate me for saying.
Don't say Utah.
No. I'm gonna make it worse than Utah. Do you know what this reminded me of? This reminded me of some Mike Shula era Alabama football.
Don't say that. Don't say
it. Reminded me of 2003, 2004, 2005 mediocre
I literally
Alabama
have that is not okay.
Football. It looked like it. It smelled like it. It tasted like it. In every aspect, shape, form, or fashion, it reminded me of old school, crappy Alabama football. So, with all that being said, yes, there is some trouble in Titletown. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the difference is between this year and 3 years ago, although we do know there's a couple of really key important features missing from the Alabama offense and the defense there. But there's a lot missing. There's a lot of things that need to work on. And the big stat that kind of pops off the map or pops out of the sheet at me when I looked at this, because I didn't have a chance to watch this. I saw the highlights. 5 for 15 on third down. Against Southern Florida.
Yeah.
5 for 15 on third down. That's atrocious. And this is coming from a Tennessee fan who's watched us absolutely just tinkle all over ourselves the last couple weeks. Like, I don't know what's happened to Alabama, aside from the fact that Nick's already got his eye on Jupiter Island. But aside from that, I don't know. None of it makes any sense. When you look at it, it's just a mess. They can't seem to get the quarterback situation figured out. I would have thought they would have stuck with Milroe, because granted, Milroe didn't look great last week, but my God, did you see what they railed out there with the other two fellas? Like, just what are we doing? Like, Simpson and Buckner, like Jesse said, they looked lost, like they had no idea what was going on, like they had never worked the offense the entire time during fall camp. I don't know. The only bright spot here is Roydell Williams getting over 100 yards on the game on the day. He knocked off a pretty long 48-yard run, but it's not to mention the fact that I think South Florida, and I had that stat right in front of me a second ago, and I've lost it since then. Oh, South Florida, excuse me, let me find it. I lost it again. They had 8 tackles for losses in this game. 8. Against Alabama's offense, the big brawny fellas that are supposed to be bigger than a Mack truck, and they just 8 tackles for losses. That's losing the line of scrimmage, and that's not good football.
Yeah, and for the quarterback situation, I understood. So if you're going to make a change, disappointment sandwich.
Yeah,
if you're going to make a change, I understood why they did it in this game. Right, this is supposed to be a tune-up. This lesser team that you can kind of slide into the offense and get the hang of things, but it just didn't happen. And so I think you're left with no choice than to go back to Milroe. And like, if you can't get things rolling against this team, what are you going to do against some of the tougher teams in the conference? Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
don't worry. They don't play defense in Oxford anyway.
Yeah. We don't play offense.
All right, let's go ahead and get to UL Monroe at Texas A&M. A&M winning this one 47-3. I got the point here. I have nothing to say. I'm going to move on unless you guys want to pop in with some comment.
ULM was 1 for 12 on third down in this game. I love that stat. You can always tell how good a game went by looking at third down conversions. And if you went 1 for 12, you had a bad day.
At least they got one.
At least they got one. So you're saying there's a chance. All right. Next is Tennessee at Florida. Florida winning this one 29-16. Nobody got the point because if you've watched football this year, why would you pick Florida in this one? So, Matt, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you because I feel, oh gosh, okay. Is everything okay? Should we be concerned?
Listen, everything is fine. This hammer right here, which is a little rinky-dink hammer that my mother-in-law got for me a couple years ago, was so close to the TV on Saturday. Was so close to the TV, but I was able to pull it back. Was able to get some composure. So all right. So there's a couple things here. Wes, I need you to get the bleep button ready. Okay. You ready for it? You ready for it? You ready?
I don't have one, but sure. Go ahead.
What in the absolute French toast was that? What was that? What was that? Guys, what was that? That was an awful game. That game was a mess from the get. Like, we had that opening drive where everything looked good, and I went, oh, okay. We found the long ball. Fantastic. Ramel Keaton runs off this huge, gets a huge pass for a touchdown. I'm like, this is going to be great. And then the wheels just started slipping off and nothing made sense. The play calling was flat. Defense was atrocious. This is one of the worst defended games I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know who taught some of these boys to tackle, but there was some really suspicious stuff going on with these tackles. I'm not going to sit here and tweet at any of the football players on Tennessee's team, but man, I've seen 7th graders tackle better than what I saw out of Tennessee against Florida last week. Not to mention the fact that I don't know what in the world Hype was doing with the clock management. We burned up back-to-back timeouts in the second half when you're down by a couple scores. Yeah. Offensive line couldn't pull their heads out of the rear end long enough to block anybody, let alone see them. It was just, I have not been this angry about a Tennessee loss since the Butch Jones era. Even under Pruitt, I still got like miffed, but it was like, well, we suck. Okay, that's fine. This is not what Tennessee football promised us this year. Everybody in the offseason was like, oh, Tennessee's going to be lights out. Heck, I drank the Kool-Aid. I was like, yeah, Tennessee's going to be fantastic. We're going to be throwing long balls. There's going to be lots of speed. Joe Milton, who they said in the entirety of the offseason can throw the ball 90 yards. Okay. That didn't help. It's just, there was so much ridiculousness in this game. At the end of the game, there's that whole personal foul targeting, QB scramble, knee, UFC octagon fight. I didn't know what happened there. It was just a mess. It was just a mess. I don't know what happened in Tennessee between now and last year. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we lost. We played without Cooper Mays for the last couple of games. I think that's been a big problem. Darnell Wright was gone. We lost Jalen Hyatt. We lost Cedric Tillman. We lost a lot of our really good wide receivers. Our wide receivers couldn't do nothing on Saturday. It's just a hot mess. I dare to say almost dumpster fire level. Almost. I'm not there yet, but if we get a couple more weeks where we look like that, we are going to have a problem. So the question is, where do we go from here? Yeah, I'm going to chalk this, and this is me being optimistic. I'm going to chalk this up as swamp voodoo because, like they told us in the broadcast, Tennessee has not won a game in Gainesville since 2003, which I was at, by the way. I was at that game. That's been 20 years, right? There's gray in this beard. It's been a hot minute since Tennessee beat Florida in Florida.
Right.
I'm hoping for a bounce back, but I have no idea what is happening around this program right now. And there's been also some rumors here and there on the backside about a little bit of a culture problem in the locker room. There's been a lot of drama going on. There was in the post-game interview on Saturday, they asked, was it Tyler Barron? It was one of them. They said, do you think everybody was focused for this game? And he goes, no, sir. I was like, huh? How do you not get focused for Florida of all the games? Like,
that's the one.
I understand not being focused for Troy. I understand not being focused for UTSA. I understand not being focused. Heck, I'll even take not being focused for South Carolina at the tail end of last year. But I have no idea what happened here. And it's disconcerting to say the least. I'm hoping this is just we suck on the road, maybe. But because if you look at our losses, last year, loss at Georgia was on the road, loss at South Carolina was on the road, this loss was on the road. Maybe we just aren't good at playing on the road. But I don't know. And to be frank with you, there's a lot of Tennessee fans who are really, really angry and ready to throw out the baby with the bathwater. And my only advice would be, guys, chill, just relax. Let's see what happens. Because last year was magic. I'll be the first to admit that last year was something special. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out the way we wanted it, but that doesn't mean you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, there's been people calling for Nico to start from here on out, to go ahead, cut Milton loose. And I'm just like, it ain't all on Milton. You can't put everything on Milton. A lot of it's on that defense. And if you looked at this, and I'll shut up after this, I promise, I'll let you guys get in. If you look at the numbers in the second half, we outscored Florida 9-3. Mm-hmm. So in the second half, Tennessee started to do some things. And there were a whole lot of really costly penalties, including some real bull crap penalties, which I'm sure Jesse's going to allude to based on the look on her face. But I think if you play this game another half, Tennessee may get the W here. But again, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you do miss the accuracy of Hendon Hooker because there were a few Milton throws that I think Hooker makes. But yeah, as I put in the notes here, I am shooketh because, I was at my daughter's soccer game early in the morning on Saturday, and one of the dads was asking me, what do you think about Tennessee, Florida today? And I was like, I feel like Tennessee's going to handle them, right? They're only favored by, what was it, like, I think it was like 5.
It was 5.5, I think, at close.
Yeah. And I was like, I understand that. And that was what I was alluding to at the beginning of the show about the bookies being right. And I was like, I don't think it's going to be that close. I feel like Tennessee's going to handle them really well. And, goodness, if I wasn't wrong, I know nothing about college football. But Florida's offense looked good, which question mark? Like, the first reaction to that is, like you said earlier, Tennessee's defense is suspect, which we've seen hints of this year. And like you said, trying to make a big hit is what led to that first big touchdown that Florida had. The guy
there were some really nasty blown tackles on that run. Like, I don't know.
He came flying in trying to make a big hit, just bounced off the guy, and then he just ran the rest of the way for the touchdown. I don't know what to think because like I said, I just knew Tennessee had this one handled. One thing's for sure though. We talked about Napier needing time at Florida. I think he just bought himself a little bit of time with that big win. So what do you think, Jesse?
Oh my gosh. I was like the only game I enjoyed watching because after mine, I was not having fun. I was straight up not having fun. But when it's teams that I'm just like, and it's just wild. Oh, it's so much fun. And I guess I do.
Glad somebody enjoyed it.
I technically attend that university, that one. So I was really impressed by Graham Mertz. I thought he showed a lot of moxie in this game. He converted on third downs with his arm, and he played injured with both hands, messed up. That was insane.
Wasn't he bleeding really badly from his left hand? So much so they had to put a glove on or something?
Yeah, it was like covering his towel in blood. The other arm was messed up. It was nuts. Napier, who has endured a lot of well-deserved criticism for his play calling, which has been pretty conservative, kind of vanilla. He has not been aggressive with the ball, and he hasn't really shown that he can develop unique plays or take advantage of extra possessions, which I think has really, really frustrated the Florida faithful. That's very hard to say. But in the first half, he was like a different guy. I mean, Florida was putting together plays, pre-snap motions and shifts that were confusing Tennessee. They moved the ball not only effectively, but very efficiently. They got tons of yardage, in chunks, and they were chewing up the clock. They had better clock management. I will say in the second half, they did revert back to that more conservative play calling, but Napier kind of recognized that in his post-game conference. He said, I was probably a little bit too conservative in the second half. But that being said, when it's a 3-touchdown game and your defense is playing well, you want to get to the house with a win. And it's like we said, Florida had tons of injuries throughout this game. I felt like in the second half, at least, you're talking about, Mertz's hands, and then you have other guys just kind of falling out. They had guys that weren't able to start the game. So a lot of injuries probably led to that more conservative in the second half. But their defense, first of all, their defensive coordinator is literally my age. He's 30. That's insane. Good for him. That defense was hungry, and they 8 with Austin Armstrong at the helm as their D coordinator. UF, I think, still needs to get a little bit better on special teams. But again, playing in the swamp at night is not an easy place to play. And they took advantage of it. Tennessee looked wildly unprepared, and they had penalty after penalty after penalty.
Well, hold on just a moment, because
I'm not saying they're all deserved. I'm just
Mhm.
saying they had penalties.
Yeah.
That doesn't help you.
And that kicked with the referee kicked the ball at the end that gave them the
Yeah,
extra few
there was
seconds
some-
to
there was
prepare on
some really-
defense.
That was
again,
wild.
That was
there were a
nuts.
lot of things in this game that reminded me of that phantom catch in the 2001 game where the
Mhm.
guy caught the ball, held it for a second, and then it got knocked out of his hand, and they called that a touchdown. There were a lot of
Mm.
things in this that there's always some weird stuff that happens with Tennessee, Florida. Every
Yeah, it's
single
a
year
weird
there's
one.
something weird.
It is.
Yep.
But the brawl at the end, oh my God, I was like,
Oh yes.
losing my mind at the end of the game. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they just won. Oh my God, they're fighting. And I'm like yelling in the house, and my voice was
embarrassing.
like, who's fighting? And I was like, fighting. It's fun to watch when you don't care.
Right.
It's embarrassing. So embarrassing. Speaking
Oh.
of embarrassing, if can I have just 2 more seconds for us? Okay, let's have a chat. If you're the guy that ran on the field,
Oh gosh. The overserved fan, as they said.
the overserved fan, who apparently on Vol Twitter right now is God's hero. There are a lot of people that are applauding his activities. I want it stated unequivocally for the record, you're a jackass. Stop it. You make the rest of us look bad, man. Just take the L, go sit down, go home and drink all you want, but don't run on the field. You look like an idiot.
Not to mention you're just hurting your team in that
God.
instance.
Just that's the kind of ridiculous crap that it's like that. And then when they started throwing hands at the end of the game, it's like, oh, now you want to fight. Okay.
And it always cracks me up when they're getting ready to fist fight and they're wearing helmets. I'm like,
Right.
it's just gonna hurt, dude.
There's a lot of big feelings, and big
Yeah.
feelings are okay.
Yes.
But we do have to learn how to acknowledge our big feelings and express them in a really healthy way.
Use your
For
words.
football players, you actually have a neat way of doing this. You're allowed to physically tackle someone in normal society, frowned upon, and
That's
also
assault.
considered assault and
It's true.
battery.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can, but you have to do it within a certain time frame. So
Right.
let's just all
It's all
keep that
about
in
context.
It is. It is. Fans, we can't do that. So we got to take our big feelings and we got to journal or
Yeah.
something.
I love it. Journaling.
Journal.
Oh,
This has been Journaling Corner with Jesse.
if I had wrote a journal entry after that game, it would have been filled with nothing but 4-letter words. Sorry, Mom.
But that's
That's
part of it.
okay.
You know, you just get it out, you rip the page and you tear it up, and that's it. You got it out.
And on
Right.
fire.
So yeah, burn it. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
What an absolute.
So we'll see what both programs do going forward. Still plenty of season left, so we'll see. Next is Samford at Auburn. Auburn winning this one 45-13. Matt got the point here. I have nothing to say. This was expected. Next, Vanderbilt at UNLV. UNLV winning this one 40-37. Nobody got the point here. I don't know who all watched this game, but it was an absolute barn burner. It was back and forth, and it was, for a Vandy game, pretty exciting. And so Vandy actually, or as we said last week, Vanderbilt, they actually intercepted and had an opportunity to take the lead late in this game, like with just a few seconds left. But they missed a short field goal. UNLV marched down the field, hit their field goal to win the game. Poor Vandy. Yeah. Vandy gonna Vandy. Jesse, what do you
Maybe
think?
it was just really hot there. It's a different climate. It's not
Don't
humid.
make excuses for them, Jesse.
They had 4 turnovers.
Yeah.
It's quite
And
a few.
again, I can't say much. We barely beat South Florida, so UNLV, who knows? They could be good. Who knows?
I was actually pumped for a second. I was like, Vandy's going to do it. And, you know, granted it's UNLV, so I'm not saying it's like a huge win, but still, I was like, well, they're going to do it. But Matt, as you said, Vandy going to Vandy. So did you have anything else to say, Matt, before I move on?
No, again, this is a situation where Vanderbilt, takes another L, and they're going to take a couple more. And this, like I said, Vandy's going to Vandy. There's an opportunity to win. They're probably going to find a way to lose.
Yeah. Well, next, Ole Miss continued the founding members of the SEC tour, playing Georgia Tech. Ole Miss got the win in this one, 48-23. Matt got the point here, which, I mean, that's not a real indication. I feel like Ole Miss struggled in this game, and it was a little bit closer than this earlier in the game, or more towards the midway in the game, but they ultimately pulled away. By the way, we did have that side bet, and I was excited because I thought one of us nailed it, but I went back and I listened, and we said, Matt, you said Jackson Dart was going to throw it 16 times. Jesse, you said 17, and I said 19, and he threw it 18 times.
He did it on purpose.
I know, right? Lane was listening, and he was like, he's not throwing it anymore. Get it 18, and that's it.
You know, Lane listens all the time. Hey,
He
Lane,
does.
please don't go to Alabama when you finally decide to leave Ole Miss. Appreciate it.
I don't know.
We have some more ground to cover, but I'm coming around.
Yeah. Did y'all have anything to add about this particular game?
I did. I wanted to talk about Jackson
Yeah.
Dart for a minute. I think he is very impressive on the ground. He tallied up 213 yards, 2 touchdowns in his first 3 weeks playing this season. He excelled not only on the designed runs, but on those when things started to break down and he had to improvise. I think his legs in this game were really impressive. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the defense. Matt jokingly mentioned earlier about them not playing it. Their defensive unit was not cohesive, not for a while, up until really the fourth quarter, when Georgia Tech quarterback Haynes King seemed very comfortable in the pocket. Up until then, they did not seem like they were getting any pressure on him. So, Haynes King is someone they've seen before, and not at Georgia Tech, but it was a little concerning. They shouldn't, in my opinion, have given up, number one, that much yardage to Georgia Tech, but also 23 points seems like a lot for them to give up to Tech to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Matt, did you have anything else?
No, I think Jesse's got a point, though. You're giving up 23 points to what is historically over the past 10, 15 years not been a good Georgia Tech team.
And almost 500 yards.
That could be, that's pretty rough. Again, it's been a theme with Ole Miss about them not playing the best defense in the SEC West. And it looks like that's going to continue. Maybe next week.
You know who their coordinator.
Maybe next week Bama finally gets it online. Yeah. What were you going to say, Jesse?
You know who their coordinator is now?
Who?
Pete Golding.
Yeah.
The trash coordinator from Bama last year that I hated.
Right. Yeah, he was not one of the good articles of food. So,
well, their articles of food over in Bama right now have been good anyway.
Well, that's true. The disappointment sandwich tradition continues. All right, next is BYU at Arkansas. Speaking of disappointment, my gosh, BYU winning this one, huh?
Just what?
Yeah, 38-31. Nobody got the point here. Which, out the gate, let's look at this stat. Arkansas, 13 penalties for 121 yards. Like you gave them 121 yards in penalties. So many. The announcers kept saying, and I thought this was odd. Announcers kept saying that KJ Jefferson wanted to make it known that he was on a mission to prove that he was the best quarterback in the SEC. And I heard that, and I was like, okay, I mean, that's cool. I mean, it sounds great, but I feel like if you focus on the game at hand and don't worry about what people think, you stand more of a chance of being recognized as the best. And it feels like, I don't know if he was trying to use that as motivation, like a chip on your shoulder and trying to prove people wrong about stuff. But I don't know. Obviously we got love for KJ on this show, and he's done really well. We Jesse, you say he has grit, and he really does. Arkansas certainly had their chances here, but KJ's got to do a better job of protecting the ball. He was intercepted once, fumbled twice, and they lost one of those. So yeah, I mean, BYU comes into Fayetteville and leaves with a win. So SEC continues its poor out of conference performances. I forget who went first last time. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one?
I was shocked by the score because I was convinced that Arkansas was going to find a way to win this ball game, and they petered out in the third and fourth quarter. If you look at their scores, they came out and scored 14, and then second quarter they scored 10, and then 7, and then nothing. You can't win a ball game if you're not at least holding on to the ball and getting some points in the fourth quarter, and unfortunately, that's what happened here. Turnovers will do that to you every time. Not to mention the fact I think I saw when I was looking at the stat line, I think Arkansas was like 1 for 12 from third down or something along those lines. 2 for 13, excuse me. That's
not great.
That's not good. That's not good at all. And you get over 400 yards of offense, but you're not able to punch it in the end zone. And that's iffy. That's a bit of a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Jesse, your thoughts?
They were at home. They
Right.
were literally at home. It's not like you were in Utah. AJ Green collected his first game with multiple rushing TDs, so that's cool. And KJ chipped in as well with 83 yards. But on the whole, the team finished the night with 239 rushing yards, and the offense looked, okay. But the game was easily winnable. I think that's the frustrating thing. And I think that's probably what a lot of Arkansas fans are feeling is it was winnable, but they doomed themselves with penalties and turnovers, like we mentioned. Jefferson, like you said, threw for an interception. He had a very bad fumble late in the fourth quarter. They were, driving to tie the game, and then fumble completely kills the momentum. Later in the game, in that quarter, he would fumble again. And, luckily that one was recovered by the Razorbacks. But the team, like you said, 13 penalties for 120 yards. That has got to be cleaned up before they get to SEC play, or they're going to find themselves in this position again and again and again. It's not a good look. It's not a good look, and it's an even worse look at home.
For sure.
State of Utah is 2-0 against the SEC this year.
Yeah, not great.
What does that say?
I don't even know what to think about that stat.
No, I don't either.
I guess the low alcohol percentage beer is helping them not be sluggish. I don't know.
Is it though? Anyway, yeah. So next in the final game that we had from last week was Akron at Kentucky. Kentucky winning this one 35-3. I got the point here. I have nothing to say because again we expected Kentucky to beat the Zips. So if you guys have anything, just feel free to pop in. But yeah, current pick'em standings. Matt has 16. I've got 13. Jesse has 7. So we're trying to keep Matt from running away with this thing. Jesse, we gotta do something because he's starting to pull ahead. So all
it's
right.
early. It's really early. There's a lot of football left to play, guys. Don't even start that game. Y'all are acting like it's 20-2.
All right. Well, let's get to an interesting opinion segment.
Sir, if I may venture an opinion.
I'm not really interested in your opinion, 3PO.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right. So with all this stuff happening and just the poor performances left and right, even against some of these lesser teams, I have to ask you guys' opinion. Is the SEC slipping out of power? And I'm not just trying to, be that guy, devil's advocate. Our out of conference record has been miserable so far. We've even struggled with lesser teams, as I mentioned. Is the rest of the country closing in to end the SEC's dominance? Jesse, let's start with you first. What's your opinion?
I think there's a couple things that contribute to this. And I think it's obviously the SEC in the past couple of years, super dominant. We talk about how many, 15 out of 22 national championships have been SEC teams. But I think when it comes to us, maybe slipping out of power, I don't want to say, but maybe other teams stepping up to a similar level of competition and play. I think first, we're starting to see the effects of NIL. You're starting to see other schools that have the ability to offer athletes this kind of, money that they're going there. Our recruiting is probably suffering just a little bit because there are other factors outside of the level of competition that are pulling people to other schools. I think the other thing is the transfer portal. You're going to hear it a lot. We take advantage of the transfer portal for sure, but other teams do as well. And the ability for kids to go and play at different schools, again, that's going to make them able to rise up to our level of competition. I think maybe the other thing is, I don't even know, is there another thing? Yeah, I think those are probably the two biggest things are going to be NIL and transfer portal that are going to make us have a similar level of competition to other universities. Because right now, and that could be completely wrong, right? It could be something that I don't even know. It could be that maybe we're just not doing what we need to do. It could be that we've gotten too big for our britches and the other schools want to make sure that they know, hey, it doesn't matter that we don't play in the SEC. We're a powerhouse too. So chips on your shoulder, transfer portal, NIL, I think they're all factors.
Okay. Matt, your opinion?
I think it's too early to say that we're out of the loop completely, because when you look at how the SEC has dominated matchups within the last 20 years, the SEC has been the preeminent conference in college football. I think that goes bar none. Top to bottom, we've had a better number of wins, better programs, more national championships, what have you. I think top to bottom, the SEC is still the best conference. I agree with Jesse. I think there's a little bit more parity now, and I think NIL has something to do with that. I think the transfer portal has a lot to do with that. And I think it's just a question of the have-nots are catching up with the haves, maybe. When you look at especially the storied programs of the SEC, Bama's having a rough year so far. Auburn's coming off a little bit of a wishy-washy period. Texas A&M struggled last year. They're looking a little bit better this year. But when you look at like the big programs, like all of them look vulnerable. Even Georgia has looked vulnerable in the last couple of weeks. No one's untouchable, apparently. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was like, this feels like 2007 all over again. I don't remember if y'all remember 2007. But everybody and their mother, there were upsets every other week, it seemed like. We're a big program. Yeah, I think that was the same year that Michigan lost to Appalachian State in the Big House. Like it's feeling a lot like that this season, and I think that the way the SEC's kind of stumbled out of the gate has only reinforced that idea. Now, does that mean we're done? I don't think so. We won't really have a good understanding of that until we get to bowl season and we see, after these teams have become finished products, how they stack up against those other conference champions. And, if God forbid the SEC doesn't make the playoff, I don't know what that's going to look like. It's chaos and it's parity. But I wouldn't call it us slipping out of power quite yet.
Yeah.
If this happens a couple years in a row, then sure. Yeah, I would say that the parity's finally caught up and we have to worry about everybody else. But we're getting a bit of a shot in the arm, apparently, with Texas and Oklahoma coming over next year. So,
yeah,
who knows?
Well, I don't know that bowl games even are a good indicator because of all the people that sit out.
For sure, 100%.
You're probably right.
Yeah, so many of these guys from power schools know they have a shot in the NFL. They don't want to play. Maybe in some of the smaller schools, they do want to play because they know that they may not get a chance to go. So it's their last game of the season. Why not?
I think when we finally get to the extended playoff, we're going to have a better understanding of where we stack up compared to everybody else.
It's right now bowl games outside of the playoff games. Like you said, you can't really judge based on that. But yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say, and the pudding in this instance is playoffs and championships. And so to that end, we're not there yet. We don't really know. I mean, the SEC has consistently put teams in both. I think that certainly the gap has closed, and there's evidence of that this year, more so than years that I can think of in the past. I would say that yes, the rest of the country is closing on the SEC. Have we slipped out of power? I'm not ready to say that yet, but it's close, and we'll see how the playoffs pan out. So,
well, you have these guys that are 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits, and maybe they don't want to sit a year. They get somewhere and they realize, I don't want to sit, or I don't want to do something. I'm not gelling with this coach. They can just go to another program and start Look at Bo Nix.
100%.
I mean,
there's less hoarding of talent.
DJ Ogiavala, or I forget. Sorry, but he's having a heck of a thank you. He's having a heck of a year after he left Clemson. Look at Clemson. Clemson's a hot mess right now.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that sometimes these big programs, they do get a 5-star recruit, but it doesn't work out. The culture is not there, or they're not getting the playing time that they want, and another school's going to offer it to them, and they still get free school. Yeah, they're going to go start somewhere.
And if you think about it, like you said, that contributes to the parity. because the talent is spread around instead of, like I said earlier, being hoarded by these teams that recruit well.
Or all of a sudden
So-
your university says, hey, Deion Sanders, I can't afford to pay you all of that money right now, but it will come. You get Deion Sanders and his son, and then he walks out with Lil Wayne and Dwayne The Rock Johnson,
Well,
and
I
all
tell
of
you-
a sudden your program is on national TV when nobody cared before.
Okay. So I feel like we should stop there, because this is like another opinion segment, because I've really struggled with Dion. Okay. Like I want to like what he's doing simply because of Colorado. Hold on. Simply because of Colorado, and those poor people out there have dealt with losing. Exactly. They have dealt with losing seasons after losing season. And it's been miserable. Right. And I want to like what he's doing out there, but I don't know. The more that I watch the stuff that he does, it just feels so contrived. And you know how a lot of times it's like when something's too good to be true, it probably is. And every time I hear him do like a speech, I feel like he's just trying to make, and I know coaches do this every week. You have to make up a reason for your players to get motivated, right? Which is why that comment about the wearing your hat and sunglasses was made to order to get his team up, for this game this week, right? And you knew that he was going to milk that for every little bit that it was worth, and even bringing his mom into it, like you said, and having her in the pregame speech. I don't really know what the question is, but for me, I'm just having a hard time buying into the fact that it's going to last, because it feels like he's just, every week is like a new thing that he's trying to latch on to motivate his players. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that this is going to last? Does it feel contrived? Matt, let's start with you.
That's tough. It's tough. It's hard for me to be kind of impartial here, because I really like I like Deion when he was at Jackson State. I thought he did a good job of kind of putting that program on the map. And apparently he knows how to coach, because he turned Jackson State into a pretty big powerhouse fairly quickly. And then Colorado has been making a lot of waves. I mean, heck, they put the Colorado State-Colorado game on over a bunch of other games they probably could have showed. That by itself tells you how much of an impact individual coaches can have on a certain situation. I do have to agree with Wes. I do feel like some of the things that Prime does are kind of, I don't want to say disingenuous, but a lot of it just screams, I'm putting on a show. And I don't say that as a dig against Coach Prime. If you're listening, Prime, by the way, I love everything you've done. But it just, you're waiting for another couple months to go by, and then him say, well, he's leaving to go to, I don't know, USC or something. It just seems like this is just a hop to get to the next rock. I'm not sure what that means. So is it a bit contrived? Probably. Is it a bit disingenuous? It could be, but it's working for right now. And it's got Colorado as one of the hottest properties in the SEC. And I know that a lot of people are not going to, in the NCAA. And there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to care. It's getting them press. It's getting them, eyeballs on the product. It's good for Colorado. It's just, you got to wonder what's the end cost going to be.
Also, I don't know how I forgot to mention this in my initial thing, but the dude ranks his children. He has literal power rankings for his children, for like who's the favorite child right now. Yeah. So anyway, Jesse, what are your thoughts?
That is psychologically just very unhealthy.
Yeah,
and I've read about
those
young men's mother and the domestic violence situations that they've
got. Hey, Doc, I got a story for you.
Not great.
Oh man,
I too liked him at Jackson State. I really did. I thought, his speeches about wanting to bring publicity to an HBCU program was fantastic. I thought when he, wanted to make sure that the guys had uniforms with their names on them, because they couldn't afford to have their names on them because they had to give them back, like that kind of stuff was amazing. He made sure that those guys had that. And so you get behind this and it's such a great story. And then all of a sudden he's just gone. And I don't know how that program is doing, but you don't hear about them anymore. And so I think I said it before a couple weeks ago or last week, I think so much of this is for his own sons. I think that all of this, hype, bringing them with him, making sure that they're getting all of this attention. You're bringing celebs in, you're going to get press. They are selling out merch. I mean, they panned to it during the game. The merch store was packed. And, you're seeing, like Wes said, the glasses and the hat, and he has custom hoodies made that say, you know where to find me. Like, all of that is fine. But to me, it is a lot of showmanship. It is very, I don't know, reminiscent to me of like WWE, where there's just like these big personalities and personas.
Yeah.
And I think these guys are probably better players having played under him. They're getting incredible coaching. He's obviously made a big difference. But, the guys that were there before, the other guys got brought in and replaced them. So I don't know. I think so much of this is probably, number one, to help his sons to get on the best foot possible to go to the NFL. And I think number two, this is a great way for him to get to the next level to coach in the NFL.
He said he came out and made in an interview this past week. He said he has no interest in going to the NFL.
We've heard stuff like that before.
So that you're absolutely right. Looking at you, Nick Saban.
I think if the payday were right and he could draft his sons,
But in that interview, he said part of the reason why he likes college is these kids actually kind of need that coaching. They need that direction. You can't really do that with somebody that's making 15, 20, $25 million a year.
It is a different dynamic.
Yeah. And I think that's his deal. I think it's the dynamic of being able to still get the thing where it's still kind of pure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of as pure as college football can be.
His
so
attitude and the way, like, that showmanship and that persona will not fly with like veteran adult NFL players.
Right. But he's always been that way. Even if you look back at when in his playing days when he was with Atlanta, or when he was at FSU, like, he's always been a lightning rod. Always been the whole look at me, look at what I can do sort of. That's just his personality. And I don't think he's going to ever back off of that. So.
No.
But I mean, to his credit, he did say that he never put another person down. He said, I would say what I'm going to do, and then, I either did it or tried my best to do it or whatever, but I never went out of my way to put another man down when I was out there, as far as talking trash and stuff like that. So, credit to him for that.
Conflicted on it. I really am. There's so much of me that like wants to like him and I love that the smaller programs are getting more recognition, but I also at the same time I'm like, we don't have to come out to Lil Wayne. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah, that was a bit much. But real quick, guys, just so we're clear on this, he is making right at, I think he signed a 5-year, $29.5 million contract.
They did not have that money when he signed. They said they'd get it.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going to get that money from, but
I guarantee you now they have it.
Oh, now they have it.
Yeah, they do it.
They got Lil Wayne coming out of their football games. You think he did that for free? No.
Yeah. Well, as Coach O said, I think he'll be able to afford a cheeseburger. So, not necessarily hating on the style of coaching, but I feel like when you do it that way, it's like, how long is it going to last? Right. You have to come up with something every week because it's got to be hype after hype. So we'll see. If you're watching Prime, not hating, it's just observation. So, all right, let's talk about the upcoming games from this upcoming weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right, the first game of the upcoming weekend is Auburn 3-0, 0-0 in the SEC at Texas A&M 2-1, 0-0 in the SEC noon on ESPN. Matt, what is your prediction for Auburn at Texas A&M?
Man, if I could figure this out and actually knew what I was talking about here, I would feel so good about myself. I have no clue. So I'm just going to go from the gut. I'm going to say TAMU wins this thing. I'm going to say TAMU wins 35-33.
All right. I'm kind of a coin flip as well. To me, home field advantage is the main factor here.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I went with who I went with.
Yeah, I'm going A&M 28-21. Jesse?
I'm going to disagree, which probably means I won't win any pick 'em points, but that's fine. I think Hugh Freeze sacrifices a Nokia cell phone and somehow the Tigers squeak this one out at Kyle Field. I'm going Auburn 28-27.
Okay. Next, Kentucky 3-0, 0-0 in the SEC at Vanderbilt, 2-2, 0-0 in the SEC, noon on SEC Network. Matt, your prediction for Kentucky at Vanderbilt?
I think UNLV is still going to be hiding in Vanderbilt's psyche. I think it's going to be one of those situations where UK is going to come out. They're going to get out early, and I don't think Vanderbilt's going to actually get on the scoreboard probably till mid-third, mid-fourth quarter. So, yeah, I think Kentucky rolls easy, 28-10.
Yeah, so many question marks for both teams here in my mind. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with Kentucky 28-17. Jesse?
It's a noon kickoff, so I'd have to say that, by happy hour, all of the Wildcats are on some, bar on Broadway. Picking UK 31-6.
All right. We have our CBS SEC game of the week at 3:30. Ole Miss, number 15, Ole Miss 3-0 at number 13, Alabama 2-1. And like I said, 3:30 on CBS. Matt, what is your prediction for Ole Miss at Bama?
Listen, I'm with the way the SEC's been this year, you're lucky if you can figure anything out. I'm going to go with my gut here and say the fact that it's at home, Bama's going to play a little better than they would if they were going to the Grove. So I'm going to pick Bama. I may regret it, but I'm going to say Bama wins this thing 28-23.
All right. 23 is a nice, weird number. All right. Yeah, look.
Field goals.
Yeah, Ole Miss, they got a lot of things to address. But their fans, I feel like their fans have to feel like this might be the best chance that Lane has had to beat Saban. I have a hard time, though. I have a hard time believing that Bama loses 2 games at home in a row. So I'm going with Bama here by one score, 31-24. Jesse?
This game is already making me sick. We're going to go to overtime at least once. I am going to throw up, probably. So much of me is like, so much of me wants to pick Ole Miss, but I just can't. I can't physically do it. So I'm praying that despite the fact that we lost to Texas at home, that we won't lose to Ole Miss at home. So I'm going to pick the Tide. I'm sorry. I'm being realistic. I'm not being reactionary. 31-28.
All right. It's shaping up to be an exciting one. All right. Next is UTSA, the University of Texas at San Antonio, 1-2. They're the Roadrunners. Their mascot is Rowdy, the Roadrunner, at number 23, Tennessee, 2-1, 4:00 on SEC Network. Matt, your prediction, UTSA at Tennessee.
Listen, if we had played this game 3 weeks ago, I'd have said let's 52-10, 52-14, 50-59, maybe get a 60 side of fries. Yeah, sure. It would have been great. But after the crap I've seen the last couple weeks, no shot. So I'm going to say we score late and we manage to find a way to get a win here. 2 touchdowns, 28-14, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah, Tennessee is going to be trying to get that bad taste out of their mouths. And the only rowdy people at Neyland will be Vols fans. I'm going to go.
In their seats, though.
In their seats, yeah.
Stay in your lane, kid.
Tennessee 38-18. Jesse?
See, I have to disagree with Matt. I think they are going to be so embarrassed from that Florida game. I think they are going to be hopefully trying and not distracted and focused. And they're in Neyland. So I'm going to pick the Vols 52-10.
Okay. That's a good pick. Next, Arkansas 2-1 at number 12, LSU, also 2-1. They are 1-0 in the SEC so far. That is 7:00 on ESPN. Matt, what is your prediction for Arkansas at LSU?
Don't they usually play this game later in the year?
I don't know. I remember the game last year, but I don't remember when it was.
I just seem to remember that this game's usually like one of those rivalry week games, but maybe not. A night game in Death Valley with LSU looking somewhat okay. Yeah, I don't like Arkansas's chances here. I'm going to say LSU wins this thing 35-21.
Yeah. So if you remember, Arkansas was a problem for LSU last year, and it was kind of a miserable defensive struggle game. I know Arkansas hasn't looked good in a few games this year, but I say don't count them out. Main problem here, though, as you mentioned, for the Razorbacks is the fact that it's in Death Valley at night. So I'm going to go, let's see. I actually had the same score as you. I'm going to go 35-24. How about that? Jesse, your prediction.
Yeah, it's like you guys said, Death Valley at night is really tough. And I just don't know that Arkansas is going to be able to clean up all of those mistakes from last week. Plus, Jaden Daniels, I mean, I'm going to go with the Tigers in this one, 42-28.
All right. Next, Charlotte. Their nickname is the 49ers, which I thought, wait a second. Which 49? And it derives from the fact that the university's predecessor, the Charlotte Center of the University of North Carolina, which was established in 1946, was saved from being shut down by the state in 1949 when CCUNC became Charlotte College. It's a lot to follow, I know, but
that might be the worst mascot picking story I've ever heard in my life.
Their mascot is Norm the Niner. Did you look him up, Matt?
He was Norm.
Yeah, good old Norm the Niner.
That story about we're the Niners.
Oh yeah,
our school got saved from bankruptcy in 1949. That's awful, man.
Who wants to attend a school that's called Charlotte Center of the University of North Carolina?
Like you couldn't come up with something better than there's so many cool things in North Carolina. Pick it.
Yeah.
Just
so they're
Bearcats.
Right. You know, something
mountain lions. I don't know, hillbillies. Pick something.
Well, they were 1-2 on the year, and they are playing number 25 Florida, who is 2-1 at 7:00 on ESPN this Saturday. So, Matt, what is your prediction for this game?
I wanted to say that Florida was going to be a little bit hungover after that Tennessee win, and that they would be a little bit, just not able to do things. But again, I'm just going to have to go with my gut here. I don't think Florida's ever going to have any problems here. So 42-10 is going to be the final.
Yeah, I think you're right on the nose there. I'm going Florida, just slightly different, 41-13. Jesse, what's your thoughts?
I'm much in the same vein, but I do think some of those injuries that Florida incurred in the game and before the Tennessee game are going to affect them. So I am going to pick the Gators, but it's going to be 35-10.
All right, next UAB at 1-1 at number 1 Georgia. Actually, is that record right for UAB? I feel like they should have played more games than that. That's probably a typo. Anyway, they're playing number 1 Georgia at 3-0, 7:30 on ESPN2. Matt, what is your prediction for UAB at Georgia?
I don't even know why we bother picking scores for these games, Wes. We already know what's going to happen here.
Maybe.
UAB is a fantastic, fantastic medical school. Okay. But they're not very good at football. Sorry. And as much as Bear Bryant's son tried to kill that program, it didn't happen. But UGA is still going to come out on top here. I'm going to say 56-10. I think Brock Bowers is going to have a heck of a game in this one.
The UAB is a good story. You know, they shut down their program a few years ago, and then they were able to get it back, and that's been a cool story to follow with them getting the program back and everything. But yeah, I'm going to say Georgia, man. I got to get some stuff worked out. Hopefully that we can use this game to do just that. I'm going Georgia 45-7. Jesse?
Yeah, I think UGA takes a lot of what they learned last week and starts to apply it here. They don't let UAB hang around. I'm picking the Bulldogs 42-7.
By the way, UAB is 1-2 right now.
Okay, yeah, I knew that wasn't right when I read it. All right, next Memphis 3-0 at Mizzou. 3-0. Also, this is 7:30 on ESPNU from the Dome at America's Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Now, this is kind of interesting. This is part of the Mizzou to the Lou partnership that will bring several Mizzou athletic events to St. Louis, which partnered in October of last year. So it's been going on for a little bit. So Mizzou to the Lou. Matt,
Why is everything around Missouri football just silly as hell? Why? My God. Just every time you turn around, there's some other silly thing. Just... Jesse, go ahead. I have to think.
Okay. This is honestly why the entire city of Chicago makes fun of St. Louis.
Mizzou to the Lou? You can't take that seriously?
No. I do think that Mizzou is hyped after their win last week. However, Memphis is not a team to play with that you can just scoff at. They've given people trouble in the past. I am going to pick Mizzou in this one, but I think it's, they get a slow start and they let Memphis hang around a little bit too long. So Mizzou 28-17.
Okay. Matt, you ready now?
I think I am. I'm picking Memphis in this one.
Okay.
If for only no other reason than just to be hateful and spiteful.
You're not going to be supportive of Brady Cook?
No, I'm not. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. It just means more. Remember, this is the SEC. Plus, let's look at the law averages here.
Sometimes it means too much.
Sometimes it does. When we've played at a conference this year, we've looked like hot crap, like
That's
hot,
true.
pure, unadulterated, just garbage. So I'm gonna go on a limb here. I'm gonna say Missouri doesn't have it in them tonight or this weekend.
Although Mizzou didn't look bad out of conference last week, but that was at home. This is kind of at home. I don't even know what you would call this. Anyway,
it's Memphis is going to win this thing 28-24. I think a last-minute touchdown.
Okay. So, a close, exciting one here. I'm going to say Mizzou's fans show up and support Brady Cook or else suffer the wrath of Drinky. I'm going Mizzou 31-24. So, all right, the final game of the day, Mississippi State 2-1, 0-1 in the SEC at South Carolina, 1-2, 0-1 in the SEC. That is 7:30 on SEC Network. Matt, what is your prediction for Mississippi State at South Carolina?
I think South Carolina showed last week they can hang. I think they're going to win this ball game just because Mississippi State's defense looks like blah the last couple weeks. So I'm going to go with Carolina, 33-21. Couple field goals in this one.
Yeah, as you mentioned, South Carolina's got to be encouraged about how they played against Georgia. I think that they get the win this week, and I'm going South Carolina 28-24. Jesse?
Yeah, Columbia is not an easy place to play by any stretch of the imagination. And I think Carolina is hyped after last week. I was really encouraged by the grit and moxie that we saw out of Spencer Rattler. But I do think they got a little beat up last week towards the end of it. I mean, they were having to grind. So I think the Gamecocks pull this one out, but it's going to be close. I'm picking Carolina 28-27.
All right, a close one. So, so that is the games for next week. We're getting into the thick of SEC play more and more as we go along. Thank you very much for listening to us this week. If you would like to contact us, please hit us up an email at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. Our handle is at pigskinsandpageantry on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. You can contact us on X at PPSEC Podcast. Don't forget, we are available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, TuneIn Radio, most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment, subscribe, review, smash the subscribe button. Until next time, this is Wes. Go Dogs.
Okay, Alabama faithful, we're going to get through it together, but we know who's going to start the game. Okay, real time.
I don't care what anyone says. I'm pulling from Colorado here from here on out. I'm done. Just go ahead and make me a Prime fan. Go Buffaloes.